Enoch Powell, A Vision of Division.
As Powell aged, his voice remained sharp even as his political power diminished. He became a fixture on political talk shows and in university debates, always willing to dissect modern policy through the lens of classical thought and historical precedent. His arguments, deeply philosophical and rarely emotional, attracted both loyal admirers and fierce opponents. To some, he was a prophet. To others, a cautionary tale. Powell's speeches often echoed Roman and Greek themes: order, decline, fate. His obsession with history allowed him to frame Britain's political issues within an ancient narrative of rise and fall. In doing so, he portrayed immigration, European integration, and economic dependency not as policies, but as existential threats. His delivery was calm, almost poetic, but his warning struck like thunder. While the Conservative Party distanced itself from Powell, it could never entirely ignore him. His words had stirred a political consciousness that would eventually shape the UK's political future. Margaret Thatcher herself admitted that Powell was right on certain issues. Even if his name was not spoken, his influence was felt in every debate on immigration, identity, and sovereignty. Throughout the 1980s and 1990s, Powell remained a respected intellectual figure, especially among those skeptical of globalization and supranational governance. He wrote prolifically, giving lectures and writing columns. Despite his physical frailty, his ideological spine never bent. The world moved on, but Powell did not move with it. He remained the man of the 20th century, haunted by the decline he had predicted. Many critics questioned whether Powell's views came from academic insight or deeper prejudice. Was his vision one of cultural preservation or racial fear? The question never received a definitive answer. Powell himself never clarified. He simply believed that Britain, if it did not assert its identity, would be lost. To him, the nation-state was sacred, its erosion a form of civilizational suicide. Among younger generations, Powell became more myth than man. For some, he represented courage to speak uncomfortable truths. For others, he embodied intolerance dressed in academic robes. University protests erupted whenever he was invited to speak. Still, Powell faced them all, armed with books, speeches, and a stubborn refusal to be silenced. One cannot talk about modern British politics, particularly the path to Brexit, without acknowledging Powell's fingerprints. Though he died nearly 2 decades before the vote, many of his arguments were echoed by Leave campaigners: loss of sovereignty, demographic shifts, and cultural anxiety. In some ways, Powell didn't lose the argument, he simply lived ahead of his time. The "rivers of blood" speech, while often condemned, is still quoted and debated. For some, it predicted riots and tension that did eventually unfold in various parts of Britain. For others, it incited division that need not have existed. But its cultural resonance cannot be denied. It remains one of the most famous, or infamous, political speeches in British history. In his final years, Powell retreated somewhat from public life, still writing, still commenting, but rarely appearing. He remained, to the end, a deeply private man despite his public notoriety. He died quietly in London, leaving behind not only a body of work, but a nation still grappling with the questions he raised. Enoch Powell's legacy is a complex tapestry. He was a soldier, a scholar, a politician, and an ideologue. His voice may have faded, but his words still echo. In every debate over immigration, nationalism, or Britain's place in the world, his spirit lingers, not as a guide, but as a warning. He left behind no political party, no movement, but he left behind the question: what kind of country should Britain be?